What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Simply People podcast. My name is Dax Vanderwall. I'm your host. And this is season 1, all about the magic of generosity. I'm joined here by the founder of Simply People, Todd Thacker. Todd, how are you?
Todd, I am great. Thank you. I'm super happy to be here, Dax, and thanks for doing this.
Of course. Super excited. So this is season 1. This is all about the magic of generosity. And this episode specifically, we want to talk about how generosity changes you, how it transforms, the power of it, and all that. But I guess we should take a step back. Who are you? And what is Simply People? How did this come about? What's going on here?
I'm just a dad and a family man, and I am not involved in ministry, but I do a lot of ministry. And I have discovered generosity by actually taking time out of what I thought I should be doing and actually listening more to what God had for me. And it's taken my life in some different directions than I saw for myself. And I've had a super lot of fun and in a very surprising way. And Simply People is a nonprofit that we started, and God gave us a vision to empower 10 million people to change the world. Now, 10 million people, that's just a crazy number. And what it is evolving around is the power of generosity. And if we can all look at generosity or make generosity an inherent aspect of our everyday life, then, the sky's the limit. And I, for my own self, have just found so much joy that I didn't expect to find through generosity. And that's where the magic of generosity came from, because it's like you go in or maybe go in to serve and you think you're doing one thing and then all these other things happen. And it's been a really, I like to say it's kind of like a roller coaster of life, and it's super fun.
Yeah, I love that. So God just put this incredibly optimistic vision on your heart. You said to empower 10 million people to change the world?
Empower
Simply?
10 million people to be the change that the world needs.
Okay.
And we look at that in a few different ways. And we really think inherent in that is generosity.
Okay.
And so one of the things that Simply People is trying to do is lead by example. And so that's why we're doing the generosity podcast, and to try to give information to people about generosity and hopefully open, my eyes were opened. I was doing a lot of things. I would have said that I was a generous person, and, I would write a check now and then, etc. But it's so much more than that. And honestly, my view is that it's way more about being generous with your heart and with your time and with your talent. And then from there, your resources will follow. I think too often we think it's about money. I've learned for me, and I think where Simply People is coming from, is that it's not about money. It's actually about these other things. And if you're leading with your heart or your time and your talents, and you're using those in a generous way, the spillover effects are just profound and surprising all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll talk about, or I'll ask you about the power of generosity a little bit more. But I like what you just said there. I do feel like we need to just establish what is generosity. And you just said right there, it's more than just money.
Right.
I do think most people, including myself, would say that I give money to things. I'm generous in that way.
Right.
Do you think there's a difference between being generous or living a generous life and just giving money to a charity? Not that that's bad, not that that's less than.
I think absolutely giving money to charities is a cool thing and a great thing. And Simply People.
And you should give to Simply People.
And we do ask people for money. Yes, we do. But more importantly than that, and what changed for me is I went on a mission trip. I've got 4 daughters. And one of my daughters wanted to go on a mission trip to Africa to work at an AIDS clinic. And we went to the first meeting, and they're like, okay, you need to reach out to people and ask them to support your trip. I'm like, I'm not reaching out to people and asking them to support their trip. I'll just write a check because I can do that. And then it's like, okay, you need to reach out and ask people to pray for you. I wouldn't think that people praying for me is an act of generosity today. Then I wouldn't have. But today, absolutely, I'd say that's an aspect of generosity, or could be an aspect of generosity. And I was I guess I would say, honestly, prideful. And it's like, I don't need people's money, and I don't need their prayers. And I was a Christian for a long time. And, that's where I was. And so ultimately, what we decided, we were trying to figure out, are we depriving Heather of the opportunity to raise money? So we wrote a letter saying that we've paid for everything. Any extra money we get, we'll take to Nigeria and help at this new AIDS clinic that our church, Bayside, helped build the clinic, actually funded the clinic that took a fledgling clinic.
Shout out Bayside Church.
Yes. And they took a fledgling clinic, and the Faith Alive now treats more than about 300 people a day for free. And they've been doing that for 20 years now. And because Bayside partnered with them and gave them the resources to build the church. So there's an act of generosity that's had a huge spillover effect.
All over that story, generosity, time, you guys taking the time for mission trips, your daughters, Bayside, sponsors, all of it. That wouldn't happen without generosity.
That's right. That's right. And I can see that today. I didn't see it then. I went because I had no interest in going. I absolutely did not want to raise money. I didn't want to ask people to pray for me. I went because my 20-year-old daughter was willing to spend 2 weeks with me. And I just was like, how can you say no to that? So that's why I went. And ultimately, what I would say that God used 2 of my kids to get me where he wanted me to be. And it totally changed my perspective. And what happened is, so Heather and I sent the letters out. We raised $8,000 came in. And so we go over to Africa, and we're trying to figure out, and Heather befriended one of the doctors there, and she had wanted to start a program for orphans. And Dr. Chris said, I would like to do that program where, both parents had died of AIDS and the kids were living with relatives. She wanted to have extra training because people didn't have an understanding of AIDS at the time, et cetera. And so Dr. Chris said, yes, let's do that. Dr. Chris is the head of Faith Alive in Nigeria. And he said, yes, let's do this, but I have no funding. So this was like in September. She prayed about this till April. And then in April, she felt like God was saying, okay, it's time to tell people about the kickoff event. Well, basically, the exact same week that she told people was the week that we decided and sent our letters. We raised $8,000 when we funded the kickoff event. And then it was, I think, $1,500 or $1,200 to fund the program for the first year. And we wanted to leave the money for Dr. Chris. So we told that Dr. Heather told her that we were going to fund the program for the year. And she was like, you're an answer to prayer. I'm like, what? You're an answer to prayer. And I'm just like, I've been a Christian since I was 17 years old. And I didn't understand that God wanted to use me to be the answer to prayer to anyone, let alone a group of people halfway around the world.
Wow.
And so I went thinking I'm going to be there for my kid and do whatever they asked us to do. And there were all these ripple effects that came out of an act of generosity. And one of the things that changed me is people that I barely knew sent me $500. And it was just like, whoa. And I thought I was generous, and people come to my door, ask me for money. I'd give them $20 or this or that or the other. And I realized that I was, actually, this gets to your question. Okay. I was generous in a way, but it was more that I was a giver. I don't think I had a generosity in my heart, truly, to really actually come alongside people.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Especially just the being an answer to prayer part, I think is huge. I mean, when we pray for things, when we ask God, approach the throne of God and ask him to bless us with things and whatnot, he loves to use fellow Christians to meet those needs, which is so exciting, right? He's like, I want to use you. I want to empower people. Right. And that leads to the joy, to the excitement. That's right. I get to be used by God. That's right. What you're feeling there.
And I had zero understanding of that, like zero. And it was like we were in a MasterCard commercial, where the person's jumping up and down when we told her that we were going to fund the program. And we were in answer to prayer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that could be. But it makes perfect sense. Now, I don't know why God continues to choose to use us, but I do know with all my heart that if you're open to it and you invite God in and you ask God, and listen to those nudges of God, and which is all about generosity and the different aspects of generosity, that God will show up. God will ask you to do things that you didn't see for yourself, and to have ripple effects and impacts that certainly I didn't expect or see.
Yeah. Amen. So This episode specifically, episode 1, is all about how generosity changes you. And there's a verse in Acts 20 that I love. Jesus says, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." And then even there's statistics that come out every single year. One, I was reading a book from, her name is Rebecca McLaughlin, and she cites all this data that talks about how religious people tend to be happier.
Right.
And it kind of reminds me of that idea that Christianity, it's not just true, but it works.
Right.
Like when you actually obey, when you actually give, it truly is more blessed to give than to receive.
Right.
Are you surprised that people who give more tend to be happier?
I would say that I didn't understand that before I started going to Nigeria and started actually taking a step back and exploring generosity in my own life and learning to say yes. So when, you send out, I think we send out, 150 letters or whatever. And some of those people are like, oh, they'll send $100. They'll send this. It was all those estimates about what people were going to do are wrong.
Yeah.
I have people that I'm like, oh, they can send me $500 or $1,000. They sent nothing. And I have people that I barely knew that sent me $500. So I think all of that changed me and changed my perspective and got me to start thinking, I don't think I'm really being generous. So when people started asking me, I was way more attuned to, is this an opportunity? And I think in so many different ways, generosity is, again, we're talking about money, but I can talk about a lot of different ways. I can talk about being generous with your time, being generous with your heart. I really think it starts with your heart and making yourself available to people. And that honestly is something.
Is that what you mean by generous with your heart? What does that look like?
Well, I think it can be little things, Dax. And I think that's a misnomer about generosity. It's like, okay, I can tell you there's 770 million people that don't have access to clean water in the world. And you'll be like, Todd, that's great, but I'm Dax. What can I do about it, right? And I think that's where we get shut down. What we are in Simply People, what we're trying to get people to see is a simple act. It can start with a simple act. And I saw this in Nigeria. So poor, poverty, extreme poverty, and you walk down the street, there's open sewers, it's like dirt roads, there's people, relieving themselves, and you're just walking by and, whatever. But what they would do every morning when they're walking down, they'd be in Aquatic, which is good morning. Lafa, I'm doing well. Like, Inagajia, how was your night? Bagajia, it was great. How's your family? But they would have these conversations. But Dax, it wasn't like going through the motions. It was actually stopping, focusing, and being intentional with that person. And there was something about that changed me. So I started being like, if I would go to the grocery store or to the bank or to wherever, and I needed whatever I needed, first I would stop and I'd go, how are you today? And ask how you are first before asking you for, my latte or whatever it is that I'm there for.
Right.
So
that's being generous with your time too. One of the reasons why I don't want to make small talk is because I'm in a rush.
Right.
I feel like I need to go. I think my time is better spent elsewhere. So I'm not going to talk to this person at the grocery store.
Right.
I'm going to move on.
But the flip side of that is, we talked about being an answer to prayer. We don't know the people that come across, whose path we come across every single day. We don't know what they might be asking God for. I had a situation. I was downtown Los Angeles, and it was in a high-rise building, a 50, 60-story building, and there was a receptionist lady that was doing the security, checking people in. The line was like 25 people or 30 people long, and it kept building behind me. But by the time I got to the front, I don't remember her name, but I was like, read her name tag. I'm Rebecca. How are you doing today? And she's like, wait, what? I'm like, I just want to see how you're doing. And boom, Dax, tears in her eyes. Tears in her eyes. She's like, you're asking me? She goes, no one ever stops and notices me.
Wow.
And so you want to know different little things that we can do to help make generosity an aspect of our life. It doesn't, if you've got the resources and can give out of generosity, fine, do that. But that's not what we're talking about at Simply People. We're talking that there's a lot of different ways to be generous, and with your time and with your heart. And so,
yeah.
And the thing now, so I try to listen to the little nudges of God. And my view is God's a nudge. Satan's the one up, jumping up and down and trying to get your attention, and it's an urgent. I don't believe God works that way. I think God wants us to do it out of, he's asking us, not forcing us or, you know, et cetera. So I try to listen to the little nudges and the urges, and almost every night I can put my head on the pillow and know that God used me today to come alongside someone in some way. And that for me is truly putting generosity with my time, with my talent, with my heart, and then, you know, at times with my resources too. And that's fun, but a shocking thing is I would have wanted the credit.
Right.
I would have done something great for somebody and want to make sure everyone knows. And the irony with doing it God's way, now I'm just kind of like, I like to do it, but my favorite way to do it is that even in the perfect world, the person that I'm helping doesn't even know that I've come alongside them.
Totally. Yeah.
So let alone other people.
Yeah. So. Yeah, no, it truly is more blessed to give than to receive. And I like that. That's how you can be generous with more than just finances. With your time, with your heart. And so that is important because it is more than just resources.
Right.
Because if I don't have the resources, then I'm going to use that as an excuse to not be generous.
Right.
That kind of, I don't know if you have a specific story or example for this, but it does make me think sometimes I only want to give or be generous when I'm in a good mood. And when I'm not, I feel like I'm entitled. I think so other people should be generous toward me.
Right.
I'm curious, has giving ever helped you through a difficult season of life? Even though it was probably the last thing you wanted to do, it was the thing that actually helped you in a difficult season.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Next question.
I can elaborate. I'm pausing because it's emotional.
Yeah.
And it's like I didn't.
That was a real yes. Like I can give you so many examples.
I can give you so many examples. There's one in particular that I can give you that I was so busy being generous and trying to help someone. It was a kid that was a heroin addict. And through my church, Bayside again, I had 40 kids over 10 years live in my house. And in the very first group of kids I had, one of the kids' brothers was a heroin addict. And within about 6 weeks of the first two moving in, the heroin addict moved in too. And long story short, I was so busy helping Chad. He had gone to rehab. I got him to rehab after, I don't know, a month or 6 weeks or whatever. He lasted 3 days. Called me on Thanksgiving Day. I prayed about it. The only answer was no. So I told him no for an hour. And then he finally was like, well, can you at least take me to Bayside, our church? And something in that, I felt, okay, now it's okay to say yes. So I'm like, all these different things. You can't even get in my car. No drugs, no alcohol, no Suboxone, which is synthetic heroin. He was a heroin addict, and meth. No cigarettes. And if you so much as look at me wrong, I will kick you, stop my car, kick you, and kick you out of my car and whatever. And I said, I don't care what your brother thinks, who was living with us. I don't care what your mom thinks. This is you and me and Jesus, and we're going to do this. If we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And Chad was with me from Thanksgiving to New Year's Day, and then he went into rehab at Teen Challenge, and it went super well. He was in blackout, and after blackout, I would go down every Sunday night. They had a church service. I'd go down to the church service, the little, in the group house, and then bring dessert for the house and hang out with him for maybe an hour or something like that. And so in July, he had earned a free day. And so we had it all planned out. He had to go to Starbucks and see the girl that he had a crush on, let her see that he was doing really well. And he just had this amazing smile. I mean, from 13 to 18, he had been an addict. So he was doing really well. We had this whole day planned out. I was in host mode. I am doing a buffet, have his family over, a bunch of friends and stuff like that. And I go into the dining room and I hear Chad's mom saying to one of my neighbors, Debbie, I just don't know how I'll ever be able to thank Todd. And I'm not really paying attention. I'm not looking for thanks. And Debbie says, but you don't know what Chad's done for Todd. And I was in host mode, so I didn't even think twice about it, Dax. And it was like a couple nights later, I'm laying in bed and the conversation comes back to me. I'm like, what has Chad done for me? And then I realized that I was so busy being generous to help Chad that God was using Chad to help me. I had gone through a divorce. My wife of 20 years reconnected with her high school boyfriend, and I didn't get a vote. And so I had built a wall around my heart, and I was so busy helping Chad, taking the time out, being there for him. I would take him he had to go to work with me because I couldn't, I knew before he got back into rehab, I knew his heart. I knew he didn't want to use, but I didn't have the confidence that he wouldn't. So do all these things. And I was so busy helping him that I didn't realize that God was using Chad to make it safe for me to love again. And because I was taking the time out to be generous and come alongside him, he was actually the one that God picked. And then the darkest, most hollowed out person I'd ever known. So this is how crazy God is. That if I had seen him before I knew him walking down the street, I would have crossed the street to not walk by him.
Yeah.
And that was the kid that God chose to help heal my heart. But I was so focused on the generosity. And I wasn't even focused on generosity. I was focused on trying to help Chad out. And it was like, whoa, God's crazy.
Yeah.
And, and the cool thing is that I was ultimately, Chad lost his battle with his disease. But the cool thing was the last night that he was in my house before he went back to rehab the last time, I told him, because I always said, God's got great plans for you. He's like, how do you know that? I said, well, remember who you were. And that day I got you on Thanksgiving Day when, you'd been out on the street for a week and, this and that. And he was so bad. And I said, that's the Chad that God used to heal my heart. And so that's why I know that God's got big plans for you because he's already used you in great ways. And although Chad lost his battle, God's still using Chad, and we're talking about him today.
Right now. Totally. So in the midst of despair, in the midst of heartbreak, the last thing you probably wanted to do was support someone else and even trust again. And the fact that God brings Chad into your life, this heroin addict, and through that generosity, it actually transforms you, encourages you when you needed it most. And when you were talking, I was reminded of the widow's offering as well. Jesus is across from the temple, sees this widow, and she is a widow, doesn't have a lot of money, and she gives, it's like 2 coins or something.
Right.
And so she doesn't give as much as other people giving, but she's actually giving more than anyone.
Right.
It's her sacrifice. She's giving all that she has. She's giving out of her poverty. So in the midst of a difficult season, God blesses the generosity through that.
Right.
So that's the magic of generosity.
Right. That is part of the magic of generosity. And definitely, and it's crazy because I didn't realize it at the time, but that's how great God would be too. Chad lost his battle, but it was an amazing experience for me, amazing experience. I have 4 daughters. It was an amazing experience for my daughters to see that firsthand. And it was a blessing that keeps giving.
Yeah.
So
I want to make this practical as well for everyone listening. Obviously, I'm sure they're thinking of different ideas and being inspired by your story. But what is a small act of generosity that someone could try maybe this week or today or start? Maybe something small-ish, something practical in the day-to-day.
Right.
How can they be generous today?
I think truly, Dax, part of it is adjusting your perspective. And so what I try to do is and I'm not great at it, but it's a goal of mine to look at all day, every single person that I cross paths with as an opportunity. And again, you said it earlier, we're so busy trying to get to this or do that or buried in our phones and all these different things. And so I am trying to be better about allowing myself to be interrupted.
Okay.
So I would say that
not easy.
It's not easy, but I think all of us have opportunity. I do believe that God wants to use all of us. And I do believe that God's just waiting to be invited in. And I believe that, and I mentor a lot of kids, and I know many of them. One kid's super funny. I'm like, dude, you need to look for your opportunity. And every day I want you to call me and tell me what your opportunity is. And he's like, and this kid was a super great kid, and he kind of went through blinders. There's some stuff with his family, and he knew if he stayed within the blinders that he'd be under the radar and let his brothers get, whatever. And so anyway, I'm like, dude, you got to take the blinders off and look for opportunity. So he's like, no opportunity today. I'm like, okay, tell me about your day. So he starts telling me about his day, and I'm like, well, did you say to, one of it was golf. I don't remember all the nuances, but one for certain, he was out at the golf course or something. And I'm like, well, did you offer to, do whatever for that person? And he's like, no. I'm like, well, that was the opportunity that you could have. You were right there, and they were, and I think that's just if we allow ourselves to be interrupted. I had to think like, it could be in the grocery line. There's so many different places you can be, and you can get stuck in a long line and be like, oh my gosh, I picked the wrong line, and like, why is this happening to me? Or, okay, thank you, God, for the opportunity to grow my patience, maybe talk to the person next to me. I don't know what it is. But I would say start small. And I'm bold today. Like I shocked myself how bold I am. But I was such
You've embarrassed me many times in public.
Thank you.
In a great way, going out of your way to be generous and to help someone.
Well, thank you. But that started out, I can remember one time, this is like, I don't know if this is generous, but it was like being open with someone. I was checking out of the grocery store. They all knew me, and I had stuff for dessert. And she's like, oh, is it one of the girls' birthdays? I'm like, usually I would have said yes, even though it wasn't. I said, no, I have Bible study at my house tonight. Bible study? Oh, I love Bible study. And I was just like, okay, so I took a risk. Someone gave me a positive response, which made it safer, easier for me the next time to actually tell people what was going on or this or that and the other. And I think the simple one is just to notice people. I can't tell you how many times that when you walk up to like get coffee or whatever, and I'm like, how's your day going? And if I go first or, they may ask me, but if I do that, I can't tell you how many times they're like, oh, thank you for asking. And again, we don't know what someone's prayed for. We don't know if someone's asked to be noticed. We don't know if someone's, and you know what? I don't have enough money to help everyone in need. And so I try to listen to the nudges, the urges. I could drive by 30 homeless people and I'll go by one. And for whatever reason, I just feel on my heart, dude, you're supposed to stop and talk to that person. And so I'll go up, I'll check in, I'll give them $20. I'll, like whatever. And I'll just basically say, God asked me to stop and help you out today. Or, but I ask, can I help you out today? I don't just assume.
Sure.
I actually have a funny story about getting rejected when I asked.
Go for it, because I was actually going to say that. I was like, what if I take the risk of being generous and then get shot down?
Okay.
And then feel embarrassed and shameful. Do you have any of those stories?
Oh, yes, I do. But it ends up God was trying to grow me.
Okay.
So I was in Chicago, a work thing. I left my room at 7:30 in the morning, and I got back at 10 o'clock at night, had been in meetings, and I think people have a misunderstanding about travel. They think, oh, how great. Well, in a situation like that, I was on the whole time, and I'm a people person, so for me to be on is fine. But I was just like, oh my gosh, I want to get out. I want to change my clothes. I want to go for a walk on Michigan Avenue and just catch my breath. I was outside. I was about a block from the hotel, and I just felt like God was like, Todd, I want you to give away all the money in your wallet. I'm like, okay. I had $48. So I'm like, okay, I'll go out for it. It was like, okay, God, help me know who. I had 20, a bunch of fives, and a few singles. And so, boom, I'm walking, nothing. And all of a sudden, like, God's like, okay. And there was a woman, and it was like, I don't know, maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And a woman in an alcove of a building. It was summer. It was a beautiful, balmy night. And quickly I realized there were way more homeless than I had money. But anyway, I offered this lady, I said, excuse me, could I help you out? Gave her $20. And she's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. The little kids were like, God bless you. And, like whatever. I'm like, okay, God, now who? So I go up to this guy and I'm like, excuse me, sir, can I help you out tonight? And he was like, you know what? Thank you, but I'm good. So he was very polite. Honestly, Doc, I was a little butthurt, but, I was like, okay, God, who's next? And so then I see a dude that is so homeless. I mean, makes other homeless.
On the homeless spectrum, pretty homeless. Like,
Yes,
pretty up there.
yes. Made the other people look like maybe they weren't homeless, you know? So I go up to him. I'm like, okay, this guy's definitely going to need help. I'm like, excuse me, sir. And it's super polite. Excuse me, sir. Could I help you out tonight? Put out $5. He's like, get the hell away from me. I don't need your damn help. Just yell at me. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, I guess I'm not nearly as in touch with God as I thought I was.
Yeah. Humbling.
And as soon as I said that, God's like, oh no, you're in touch. You're just doing it for the wrong reasons.
Wow.
I want you to do it because I'm asking you, and you want to do it for the response. I was like, okay.
Right. Regardless of the outcome.
Yeah.
Your job is to be obedient.
Just obedience.
Yeah.
I'm more and more, Dax, generous with your obedience. That's it. So I said, I was like, okay. And so I'm like, okay, help me with this and do. And so I gave away the rest of the money that I had. And I had like $2 left. And I'm like, okay, God, who? And I gave it to some dude. And he was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, thank you so much. And I was like, okay, God, I already told you I was good, but thank you for letting me end on a high note or whatever.
Some final affirmation, encouragement.
Yeah. So the journey of generosity has been a learning thing for me. And sometimes I've gotten it right. Sometimes I've gotten it wrong. Now I would say if I feel the nudge, I'd rather err on the side of getting it right than missing the opportunity. And I think that's what Simply People, we're trying to help all people on one side of the equation, potential donors or investors and people, and we're trying to find creative ways that people can come alongside people and help them in third world countries. How there's partners, our partners on the project side of things, they're doing all these incredible things around the world. They just need donors. And we have people that want to help, they just don't know how to help. And we're trying to bridge the gap between the two of them.
Yeah.
And it starts with the generosity mindset, and it really starts that it's not, you don't have to give big, you just have to be obedient and be open. And like I said, more times than not, I feel like God's asking me to give my time and my talents and to come along and meet with people, come alongside people, and to give money. The other thing I'll say, I recently, a few years ago, got remarried. Angie has 4 kids, so now we have 8 kids. And I was nervous to tell Angie what I do with my money because I've learned to really be generous, and it's not about, well, for me, it's been numbers that God's just given me, and I've just said yes. And I've never regretted saying yes, although the numbers have stunned me, honestly. But when I finally told Angie what I do with my money, she's like, Todd, you can't outgive God. And that would be something I would say for everyone, because, there's a million different ways to give. One of the things that we've done at Simply People is had costless giving. Instead of asking people to give a check or give money, they could fill out a poll on different products, et cetera. We have a partner that we've used a couple of times. And if someone did 60 surveys, that would raise $100 for us, which would fund a microloan for our partner that's working in Burkina Faso. And that our partner would give that $100 to a woman over there. She will start a business, which will allow her they'll provide training and things, and she'll start a business, and her commitment was within a year that she'll pay that forward to another year. So we're taking someone, just because someone took time to do surveys, we're taking that, and they're taking someone that's looking for help, and a year later, that person's become a hero. And so there's really cool things if we can take time out, allow ourselves to be interrupted, and be maybe a little creative and open to what generosity might look like. Yeah. So
I love that. Honestly, I feel like my perspective is already broadening on just what generosity is and what it could look like for me.
Yeah.
I do think it's very practical. Just I'm going to Trader Joe's after this. I should walk in with a perspective, God, where are the opportunities? Yes. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to try to see people that I'm passing. I'm going to see this person who's checking a was going to say checking me out. I mean, probably not in that way, but like,
Maybe.
maybe. Got to be open to that too. Got to be open to interruptions.
That's right.
But we do. And I love the line that your wife said, you can't outgive God. I mean, God literally gave his son.
Right.
And so we can't outgive him. He has blessed us, and therefore we give and bless other people. Is there anything you want to leave the people with? And I think we should land this amazing episode 1.
I would just like to leave everyone with just that: give generosity a chance. And honestly, I was in my 50s before I discovered this. I was 49 and a half the first time I went to Nigeria, and that put me on a journey to generosity that has radically changed my life. And I look forward over the next 9 episodes of going into more detail of the crazy things that God has done with a simple yes. And it's boggled my mind. I mean, truly boggled my mind. I can give a teaser. I had a kid at Topgolf that that I interrupted, and boom, and his name was Isaiah, and do you believe in the Bible? And he's like, yeah, I go to church. I'm like, well, that's not what I asked. And
By the way, when I said moments of embarrassment in public, that would be one of them if I was there. This is generosity in action. Sometimes it's risky, just calling out this random waiter at Topgolf.
I waited till he came back the second time.
That's good. Better.
But the reality is 6 weeks later, I came back and he's like, oh my gosh, he showed me his screensaver and it said, Todd says, invite God in.
Wow.
And so he was like, I'm going to start a landscaping business, ding, 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 ding. And then he told me 10 minutes about that, and he mentioned his girlfriend. And I'm like, are you having a God-honoring relationship? And he's like, what? And I'm like, are you having a God-honoring relationship? And he's like, what? I'm like, dude, are you guys having sex? And yeah, that's how bold I've gotten. And he said, I want to talk to you about that, but I got my break. So he goes back and he comes back like 15 minutes later, or, he was working out, come back on my break. Comes back like 15 minutes later and he's like, Todd, I definitely want to talk about this. So what do you think the Bible says? I said, well, God created sex. So if God created it, he probably has it. And he's like, oh my God, it's you. I'm like, what? He goes, oh my God, it's you. I'm like, what? And finally he's like, last night I prayed to God saying, I need help figuring out what I'm supposed to do with sex. I said, dude,
wow,
look at this. You just spent 15 minutes telling me about your landscape business. I prayed for you on the way here. I certainly wasn't thinking of your sex life. The only question that came out after 15 minutes of landscape was, are you and your girlfriend having a God-honoring relationship? And boom, God brought today. This was the day that we met, and it's after you prayed. And so now you see how God can be in action and use people in action to be an answer to prayer. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
It is cool. And it gets me excited because I also want more stories like that. And this is the life that we get to live, being used by God. This is what he's he wants to use us for these things. He wants to set up these random divine appointments.
That's right. They are random divine appointments. And the way I describe it, Dax, it's generosity is jumping on the roller coaster of life with Jesus. And roller coasters are exhilarating, scary, fun, all that. And that's what generosity, that's the magic behind generosity. Has been so great in my life.
Amen. Yeah, again, I think that's a great place to land things. We'll come back to Topgolf and that story, I'm sure, in the future. As Todd just mentioned, there's going to be 10 episodes of this. This is episode 1. And so definitely come through this journey, come on this journey with us through generosity, understanding the magic of it, the power of it, and how we can really just have a mindset of generosity in our lives. So thank you so much for listening. If you made it this far, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please leave a rating down below and follow Simply People on all social media platforms. There will be links in the description below. And Todd and I will see you in episode 2. See you soon.